It's gonna happen. Like someday you're gonna be old enough and you're gonna wanna retire and you're not gonna wanna work anymore. And here's the question. You currently have a lifestyle that's based on a certain amount of money that you're comfortable living on. Do you know whether your approach to retirement is going to leave you with the same amount of money that you're used to right now, less than that, or more than that? Well, there are two major schools of thought when it comes to planning for retirement. One is called the good old trusty 401k, which is what most people are doing. And then there's real estate investing. And today we're gonna compare both of them and basically project where you're likely gonna end up based on choosing either strategy. All right, let's start with the basics. What is retirement? Because one person is like, oh, I need like X hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, and if I have a certain amount of money, then I can retire. And someone else is like, I don't need millions of dollars. I just need a passive income that comes in dependably every month. Well, which is it? Retirement is a stage of life where an individual wants to stop working full time, and they want to begin relying on their personal savings or their investments or their other income sources to sustain their lifestyle. It's a period that is typically characterized by leisure, personal fulfillment, reduced financial obligation, toes up on some beach somewhere in the world, and people think retirement's gonna be great. Except if your retirement strategy for your 40 working years wasn't great, then you aren't gonna have toes up on the beach. But here's the bigger thing. I don't even think you should be looking at retirement as an age. And on top of that, I don't even know if you should be associating retirement as an age. Really, it's more like a number. It's the amount that you need to live the life that you want in retirement. The reason why I retired at the age of 26 is because when I was 21, I discovered that there wasn't a degree in college that was going to make me happy. It wasn't going to bring fulfillment. And I also knew that if I made 50 or 150 grand a year for my entire working life, that I was never going to save enough money for the retirement that I wanted. So instead I said, well, I think instead I should focus on something different. I'm going to focus on investing until I can produce enough monthly reoccurring passive income so that I just never need to work ever again. And that happened for me by the age of 26, which was really weird because it meant that at 26, when I was graduating college, while all my buddies were getting their first job to like work the next 40 years, I was actually quitting that job so I would never have to work again. Here's what we need to do. We need to start with how people usually tackle retirement. Here's what it usually involves. Financial planning. I'm going to accumulate a sufficient amount of savings from investing. So here's the money, Kris, that I make every single year. And if I'm really good, I'm going to try to save maybe 10% of it. And I'm going to put it in a 401k. And maybe if I'm like a super saver and a penny pincher, I'm going to save like another 10%. And I'm going to put that like under the mattress. You see, the problem with that plan is most people don't really know if what they saved is actually going to be enough. And today I'm going to show you the math so you actually know what it is. The biggest problem with this accumulation plan is that most people will only save between 10 and 20% of what they actually need for retirement. So instead of knowing what the number is and basically planning, what they do instead is they're like, well, I'm just going to save and what people are telling me, and then when I get to the end of retirement, I'll take whatever I got and then I'll figure out how to live off of it. The only problem is that usually means living below the poverty level. There is a total different approach to retirement, and I want to share with you how I actually got involved in the game of real estate. You see, when I was a young college kid, I had my first job telemarketing, and I was talking to people for this financial institution that had been to college 30 years earlier. They were actively putting money in 401ks and IRAs, and they were also trying to pay off their house. And I got to see in their mid-50s where they were at. And me, I'm kind of like, I like math. So I'm like, okay, if they're 55, that means that they're 75% through their working career. Or in other words, if you're gonna work 40 years, I'm talking to all the people that have been working for 30 years. So they should have kind of figured it out by now because they're almost to retirement. And you know what I found out? I found that people that were dutifully putting money in a 401k, people that were trying to pay off their house, they were so far off the mark of what they needed for retirement that they were going to literally end up retiring like paupers, like poor people or po people that can't afford the O and the R. Because I had that knowledge at 21, I basically felt the need to find a very different system. And I met my very first mentor who had made $10 million in real estate. And I said, show me what to do because I want to do it different. Oh, by the way, I can't really find a degree in college that I think I'm really going to enjoy. So I don't know if I want to retire at 65 or 55 or 35. Like, I'd like to retire in my 20s. Well, my first mentor showed me how to do it. I house hacked myself into my very first house. Literally, I bought a house where I lived upstairs. It had 3 bedrooms. And then the basement I could rent out to a separate family. And this family that I rented to paid me enough in rent to actually cover the entire payment. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, I'm living for free because I'm renting out a part of my house. It was a cool house hack. But on top of that, the house I bought had $40,000 of equity, which means that it was worth $150,000, and I bought it for $110,000. So a year later, I went back to the bank and I said, bank, can I borrow some of the equity out of that house? And they gave me 20 grand. And I used that 20 grand as a down payment on another super cheap house. That house I bought $90,000 less than it was actually worth. And when I rented that one out, I made an extra $600 a month. That meant that they paid me $1,600 a month. My mortgage was $1,000 a month, so there was $600 left over every single month. So here I am living for free in my house. That house I'm making an extra $600, and for being a really poor kid at the time, eliminating my biggest expense and creating an extra $600 every single month passively without needing to get a second job, it changed everything. My young wife and I caught the vision and we said, you know what? How much real estate do we need to buy to retire? And we decided that if every house we bought could average us $500 a month of positive cash flow, that if we would just buy 20 homes times $500 each, that would be $10,000 a month. And we were so young and poor that the idea of $10,000 passive every month was enough to get me excited and to think, this is cool. I'm gonna graduate college. I'm not gonna need to get a job. And that's actually what happened. When I graduated, I didn't have 20 homes, I had 25 homes. I had a $12,000 a month passive income. That money came in every single month, whether I worked or whether I didn't work. And basically, I retired at the age of 26. And on top of that, my real estate gave me a net worth of $1.6 million. So think about being 26 years old, having a net worth of $1.6 million, sitting in a portfolio of 25 homes, paying $12,500 every single month. Well, I did what any reasonable person would do. I quit my job, and then actually, because buying real estate was fun, I decided the next year to buy more. And that year after I got to 50 properties, and the year after I got to 100 properties. And from there I became a professional real estate investor. I built a team to basically do all of it for me. And today I make content, not because I make money in content, it's because I'm a successful real estate investor and I love sharing this knowledge with you. And today in this video, I want to show you that if you put money in a 401k versus real estate, there's about a 27x difference over 20 years. As in, you make 27 times more money in real estate than a 401k. And I know how that sounds. It's ludicrous. But today I'm going to show you the math. Let's start by talking about that 401k plan, right? A 401k is a tax advantage retirement savings plan that is offered by employers. Now that's the definition I pulled off the internet, except there's only one problem. There's no tax advantages. It's a lie, it's a scam, it's not true. Because someday when you withdraw your money out of the 401k, you're still going to pay taxes. But they call it tax advantage because you're probably earning less money, you're gonna pull out less money, so you're gonna pay less in taxes. It's garbage. And there's another reason why it's so seductive. It's because employees contribute a portion of their salary to their 401k, and then the company receives government incentives to actually match that 401k, which is also a lie. What's really actually happening is that your employer is actually paying you 10% less than they would give you in the form of a salary because they have to put money into that 401k plan. So you think it's this really great deal because I put in money, they put in free money, when really it was money you should have been paid through salary. And then you're just gonna save it and you're like, it's gonna be enough. It's gonna be enough. And then you get to the end of the road and you're like, it's $272,000. That's the average person at 65 years old. That's 272 grand. You've been living off of $85,000 a year. That's like 3 years worth of money. 3 years, that's the retirement plan that you bought into. Disgusting. Well, I'm supposed to tell you that there's a lot of advantages to doing this. For example, there's diversification because a 401k is an index fund where you're putting your money in the stock market. Except I don't really believe in index funds because the 20-year average on your 401k growth is 4.2%. And currently inflation is at 4.1%, which basically means you're taking on a tremendous amount of risk. You remember what happened this last month with the NASDAQ dropping 1,000 points, $2 trillion getting evaporated out of the market. The top 7 companies in the tech space lost $520 billion overnight just because people were afraid of what they were seeing in overseas wars, and also unemployment rising from 4.1 to 4.3%. Does that really sound stable? Does that really sound like low risk? Earning 4.2% when your money vacillates like this? Well, obviously I'm not a fan of 401ks. I'm biased, and that's because I've interviewed literally thousands of people that have them, and by the time you get into your 50s, you usually get pissed at your 401k because it feels like a 201k. Maybe a 101k. You see, first of all, if you wanted to get your portion of the money out, they're gonna slap you and say you can't do that. They're gonna say there's a 10% penalty if you withdraw it before 59 and a half, and you're like, well, wait, you're gonna tell me that I built up a couple $100,000 in this thing, and now you're gonna penalize me $20,000 for taking it out? And then if I were to take it all out, now I have to pay taxes on all of it? Tax on $200,000 is gonna bump you into a high tax bracket. So it's this never ending problem. But the truth is, your money outside of the 401k is far more powerful, even without the match, if it's sitting in a piece of real estate like I'm about to show you. Real estate, on the other hand, involves purchasing properties that generate rental income. And I know we've all heard like the stories of landlords that are eating it in the shorts, and you have nightmare tenants, and someone's gonna leave and they're gonna take everything in the kitchen sink, and then you're gonna have to dump money into the money pit and fix it up. Yes, that is true. That happens for the novice that doesn't know what they're doing. But if you work with a real estate professional that's done, let's just say hypothetically, $2 billion in real estate transactions, like maybe like, I don't know, 6,000 deals, only investing in the top markets, outside of the entire United States for making the most money, well, then the numbers sound very different. And we're gonna compare them right now. Because when you buy a piece of property, it produces rental income. And that positive cash flow means that you're actually getting paid, whereas every month your 401k pays you nothing. Your real estate actually goes up in value, it appreciates. It produces tax benefits, and it's a tangible asset. So when inflation is high, real estate goes up with inflation. Your 401k goes down with inflation. So as a hard asset, it actually creates all of these benefits. And we can summarize all of that into what's called an ROI, or a return on investment. We already talked about the 401k. The ROI is 4.2%. In real estate, I don't touch a deal unless it's averaging 25%. So here's the question: what's the difference between 25% and 5% out of the stock market? Well, it would seem that there's only a gap of 20 points, meaning one's 5 and one's 25, there's a 20-point delta. But year over year, over 20 years, the difference is that real estate becomes 27 times more money. Let me give you a fixed number. Let's just say I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's $50,000. I want to demonstrate this for you really, really, really well. This is $50,000. You worked hard, you put it in your 401k, you're excited about it. Over 20 years, this $50,000 growing at 5% becomes $160,000, what you see exactly before you right now. But what does that $50,000 do if it's a 20% down payment on a piece of property? Well, it grows to $4.3 million. That's what 25% year over year is. $160,000 versus 4.3, that's a difference of 27x. It means that in this situation, you retire with a bunch of homes that are worth $4.3 million to you, or it means that you have a 401k with $160,000 in it. The comparison is crazy. There's no contest. The only thing that you really have to ask yourself is, do you want to do real estate on your own, or do you want to hook up with a professional that will do all of it for you, and you guys are going to split all those gains? In conclusion, the 401k is a known. You know what its a return is, you know how much you're putting in, and you're capped at how much of a match that you can get. So literally, you can go online and say, I need a free future value calculator, put your annual contribution into the 401k, set the growth rate to 4.2%, or if you want to be generous, 5%, and look at what it will turn into over the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, or 4 decades. Then you'll actually know if that plan is going to be enough money for you. Your other option is to see what happens if you put it into real estate earning 25%. And you can literally take the same future value calculator and say, I'm gonna put in money one time and have it grow at 25% every year. How much will that be in 20 years? And you can literally see the math. And that's the kind of math that you should use for making a decision. Because now I wanna answer the actual question of retirement. Is it millions of dollars, or is it a set amount of passive income that you get every month? I'm gonna tell you right now, if I gave you two choices, I'm gonna give you $1 million one time for the rest of your life, or I'll give you $100,000 every single year for the rest of your life. Which would you choose? If you're dumb, you'll take the $1 million. If you're smart, you'll take the 100 grand every single year that, by the way, also grows at 10% year over year over year. Why? Because this one, you never have to work again, and it's not gonna run out in 10 years. It's not gonna run out ever. It's only going to get bigger and bigger, versus the $1 million, you're gonna start eating into it for retirement, and it's gonna shrink every year until it's gone. Ultimately, you need a plan that gets bigger with time, not shrinks with time. 401k shrink with time, real estate grow with time. And if you want to know how to do it like the experts, if you want to know how to do it at the highest level possible, you can click the link below and you can request a free game plan with me, where I can show you how to take money from that 401k or that IRA or equity in your home and put it into real estate and start earning the kind of returns that will give you the retirement that you've dreamed of. Did you know that the 401k is a scam 6 different ways? Don't believe me? Click right here. You got to watch this video. And then I need you to forward it to everyone that you know that has a 401k, so they don't literally ruin the next decade or two chasing the wrong game. Click right here. Enjoy.